Well, guys, welcome to another edition of the Extra at Life Point, where we go deeper into the sermon with the pastors and the guest speakers. And I'm excited to be here. I'm Shane. I'm a member at Life Point and also a client of this amazing guy here.
That's right.
Pastor Mike Howerton and Coach Mike Howerton. Mike, welcome.
Thank you very much, Shane. It's great to be here. I love Life Point, and honestly, I love this section right here. So excited for you to log on, and I love this guy. So it's great.
That's the off the cuff part. I did pay. I set $1 under the tithe dish to Mike for that. But I'm really excited to be here, Mike. This was a really good sermon. There were several points that really hit home, and I want to touch on a few of these.
Okay.
Question number one, your sermon emphasizes how our view of Jesus can be distorted by cultural perceptions or personal experiences. What advice would you give to someone struggling with a limited or skewed view of Jesus?
Right. Well, Shane, as you pointed out, actually just a few moments ago, that's actually everyone. Like, we all have a limited view of who Jesus is. And even as I started the message, I was saying we're going to work and pursue right-sizing our view of Christ, and we're going to do it theologically through the book of Colossians. However, I warn, like, even our attempts at right-sizing are still going to fall short. So, answer to your question, I think we have to recognize that we're going to continue to pursue a right view of Christ over the whole course of this spiritual journey that we're on. Like, our entire life could be spent in a pursuit of right-sizing Jesus. And we have to use Scripture. Like, that's just the bottom line. It's got to be biblically informed before it's experientially sort of defined. And so we all have experiences. We can all point to times when Jesus showed up, when, God answered prayer, when we feel like we were held by the Lord. That's great. I want to make sure that all of that informs our faith journey. And at the same time, it will never surpass the biblical, theological reality, like Paul articulates in Colossians chapter 1. So the more we get biblical and then marry our experience to that, the better we're going to be.
I love that. One time I decided that I was going to climb Mount Rainier. In fact, we talked about this.
That's right, yeah.
And so my perception was I'm a climber.
Yeah.
Until I started climbing. And then I realized that my perception of and my experience was so limited. But what's so interesting, and as a Christian in my own life, you feel like you have to get to a point. There's a finish line.
Yeah.
There's a summit.
Right.
And the reality is, what I've learned, the more I just engage in the process, the layers of Christ unfold.
Yeah.
As I started to learn how far I was from being a mountain climber.
Sure.
As I started step by step going up the mountain.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. And I would even say, from a human perspective, every relationship that you're in with the long haul will change and morph over time. So, like, I know you have this beautiful little girl, Olivia. I've got 3 kiddos. You go through these different seasons of parenting, say, and you think, oh, I've got this. And then it's a new season. It's like, oh, I don't have it. There's disruption. And then you get through that and you get, oh, okay, I got this. Elementary school, say. And then you get through that. It's like disequilibrium again, And it's just every season's a little bit different. You're growing, they're growing, etc. Well, when it comes to our relationship with the Lord, it's almost like, I wouldn't say it's because he's growing, but he's able to show you more things, different things, open your eyes in new ways. So really, the openness of the believer and the recognition that we are all on a journey it's humbling, but it's actually the most encouraging thing that we can do. I feel really suspect around, let's just say, pastors who project that they've got it all nailed. To me, that's really a red flag. They're like, no, we're on a journey, and this is what I'm experiencing now with the Lord.
Love that.
This is what I'm understanding now from the Scriptures.
Love that. Okay, question 2. You talked about Jesus holding all things together, from the smallest atoms to the vast universe. How does this practical truth impact our daily lives when we feel like things are falling apart?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do think there's so many what I would call tangible expressions of this belief empowering our lives. At the same time, I do mention a little bit of that in the message itself. I talk about, even personally, something that I experienced with the Lord. But I would tell you this, from a broad stroke view, the reality is Jesus is bigger than you think he is. the problems that you face feel bigger, but Jesus is not just bigger than your problem. He's like infinitely bigger. Like there's no way to scale the size of your issue against the size of the power and scope of who God is in the person of Jesus Christ. So the more you recognize that and really come back to that, that's when your faith can actually have legs and you can begin to really trust these different areas of your life to a God who is not only present with you and loving, but a God who is infinite in scope and power.
I love that. I love that. And I one of the parts of the sermon I really loved was when you gave some context to distance. And you talked about getting to the sun is 8 minutes.
Right.
But the Milky Way,
yeah.
You said how long was that?
200,000 years to travel across the Milky Way at light speed, which is, for us, it's the fastest speed that we know how to calculate. And that's our galaxy. I mean, what's so crazy is that's the one we're in right now, and there are billions of galaxies. Scientists actually estimate that there's one thing in the universe that travels faster than the speed of light, and it's the speed of expansion of the universe, which also boggles my mind to think about how big everything is. And then the fact that the whole universe sits in the palm of God's hand. We're starting to get in the right size space. Yeah.
Super humbling.
Exactly.
Last question. You mentioned Jesus as the visible image of the invisible God. Mm-hmm. How would you encourage someone who struggles to see or experience God in their everyday life?
Yeah, that is a great question. And honestly, I just want to say, if that is you, I really do have compassion and empathy for you, because that is tough. Like, if you're in a place of disbelief and you're like, I wish I could experience God, but don't, I would just tell you that is hard, and I feel for you. Here's what I would suggest. Everyone's wired differently. You're uniquely wired. The way that I experience God's presence in a powerful way is actually through nature. So it'll be through getting out on the water. It'll be through getting up on a hike and being in a waterfall or a mountain peak. It'll be, sometimes I'll even just get out and get on like a wide open country road or something like that. Like, there's all kinds of ways that I want to get into the beauty of God's creation. And then when I'm there, I just start to notice, how are the attributes of God present in this space? And honestly, it's more experiential. I experience God's presence in those ways. So I would just say, pursue some of those kinds of constructs. For some of you, your intellect, so you will experience sort of the presence and the reality of God just through like argumentation, philosophy. That's kind of what I went into when I was younger in my life. Now I'm more experiential. For me, it's more sensory. It's more beauty. That could be you. For some of you, it's feeling, right? So how do you really open up your heart and try to recognize that the emotions that you have are all actually connected to a God who is powerfully connected to our emotions and wants us to experience love and the feelings of love the way that he wants us to and the way he does for us. So there's all kinds of ways, but typically those are the things that I would recommend.
I love it. Well, Mike, thank you again. Thank you for a great message and some additional deep dive and insight into that. Thank you for joining us this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.